Cold and calculated killers. The Vindicare Assassin can pick out key vitals on the opponent from extreme ranges and remove the enemy.
Anvil of War! Let's talk tactics!
So today on Let's Talk Tactics, we're talking about the Vindicare Assassin. This guy got a big boost when the Index Assassins was released in a White Dwarf Magazine. I can't remember the issue number off the top of my head, but this is a big hot topic right now in the community. I think it's kind of divided as to whether or not people like or dislike the fact that Games Workshop is releasing these indexes and these rule sets for either like specific Space Marine chapters. I know the Blood Ravens came out relatively recently, and we have the Index Assassins coming out in a White Dwarf magazine. I think there's a lot of distrust for that in the past because we've had a lot of issues with power creep, and it's inevitable, I think, in a game system like this. I think it's always going to happen, but I think Games Workshop's putting a lot more thought behind it now. So personally, I'm on the side of hell yeah, let's do this. The more rules, the better, the more diversity to the game. Seeing rule sets released for armies that maybe didn't get any love, or special specific offshoot factions that never really got any love, or maybe we'll be waiting for a really long time for an official book to be released including them. So, careful what you wish for. If you complain too much about it and they stop doing it, then we're not going to have that, and we're not going to have a lot of that fun. So I think it's typically more geared towards the non-competitive players, this style of format, and it's an inclusive kind of format to be able to give everybody the ability to include models that they maybe have in their collection. I mean, I have all of the Assassin models, which you're going to see. We're going to be covering all 4 of them, but today we're doing the Vindicare. And let's get into that because I love talking about this guy, especially with the new rules. So first off, we've got to talk about the special rules, the specific rules for detachments, throwing these guys into a detachment. The execution force, essentially what it does is it allows you to include, as long as your warlord in your overall army has the keyword of Imperium, you can include these guys in a Vanguard detachment. If you do so, and it doesn't have to have an HQ slot. If you do that though, it is going to lose its command benefit. So you're not going to get the +1 command point for having it. I mean, it's a good trade-off. We'll talk about a specific stratagem which you're going to use if you're going to only use one of these guys in your army. Then there's another way. It's a little bit more costly, but it's still a way to include a single one in your army. Another option with the execution force is to include one of each type of assassin, which does allow you to gain that +1 command benefit. But at 85 points a model, I mean, it's fun. Is it super competitive? No. Could it be competitive? Yes. I think it's a cool way to throw these guys on the table in a thematic way and target specific characters in your opponent's army and kind of have fun with them. I think in a competitive format, you're probably only going to want to include 1, maybe 2 in your army. 2 if you're going the Vanguard route, and even then, I guess, technically you're supposed to have 3. You are supposed to have 3 Vanguard in a Vanguard detachment. So it gets a little confusing, and you could see changes and nerfs and future FAQs to that. I kind of think that they should just be like a plug and play. I think they should be kind of like the way that the specific units like the Ogrins and the Ratlings, the Auxilia and the Valkyries and any of the aerial units in Astra Militarum, how they don't really affect the overall format of the detachment and them getting that keyword. I think that's kind of how these guys should play. I think you should be able to throw them into an army if it's only 1, but there should be a limit of 1 assassin if you're going to do that. If you're going to go the other way and have multiple assassins, then you should have to take all of them and do the execution force and have it a Vanguard detachment and get the +1 CP and all that. Anyways, let's get into the meat and bones of this. We want to talk about we want to talk about the Vindicare Assassin today. So let's talk about his stats first. So first of all, special rule, he has a lightning reflexes special rule, which gives him the 4+ invulnerable save, which he's going to need. Some assassins are more durable than others. They aren't really designed to be guys that are going to get targeted heavily. And the Vindicare Assassin is somebody that you're going to want to deploy up in a, think bell tower, think where a sniper would want to be in a real war situation. You're going to want these guys to have a high vantage point with lots of targets and drawing line of sight to specific targets that he's supposed to be shooting at. And high vantage point is going to give you that on a table. So if you have ruins in your deployment zone, if you have a rock crop or something like that in your deployment zone that you can put him up high, probably going to want to be deploying him up there. You're not going to want him on ground level with lots of line of sight obstructions. He's going to not do very much work as it is. So now let's talk about stats. So he has a 7-inch move, which is a little bit better than your standard typical infantry. So he's a little faster. He's got weapon skill, ballistic skill of 2+. So he's going to be hitting most of the time. I can't tell you how many times in past editions I have rolled a 1 to hit with a single shot with this guy, and it has driven me insane because you throw him on the table, he's finally got that line of sight on the enemy warlord or something that you really know you want to kill, and then you roll a 1 and you can't re-roll it, and it's crushing, and you cry a little bit inside. Weapon skill 2+, that helps if he gets locked into combat. He's not really supposed to be in combat, but he can hold his own. He's not going to be in a prolonged combat with a melee specific opposing unit. Something that's designed to kill him is going to kill him. So just be careful with him. Again, he is a character, so he can't be sniped out as easily. So as long as you have something closer to the enemy than him, then you're probably pretty safe. He's got strength and toughness of 4, so basic marine stats. These are kind of superhuman, jacked up killing machines that have been created by the Imperium. They are not just normal humans, and they are specifically trained for, highly trained, I should say, for what they do, and what they do is kill stuff. So strength and toughness 4 is supposed to match a Space Marine. Again, that'll help. The strength 4 will help a little bit in combat. The toughness 4 helps with durability a little bit. Again, he's a character, so he can't be targeted, but he also is squishy if he takes high volumes of shots. So he's got 5 wounds base. So when we're talking about 5 wounds on a character like this, that helps. Again, with the T4, that makes the durability a little bit better, and the 4+ invulnerable. He's got 5 attacks and a leadership of 9. Leadership of 9 isn't really coming into play unless he gets targeted with psychic abilities, but he's single model, so you never have to worry about any morale or anything like that, obviously. So he has 5 attacks, which again, at strength 4, can help him dish out a little bit, and if he gets kind of stuck in combat with a whole bunch of enemy infantry, he might be able to chew through a few of those. But again, with multitude of attacks coming in, with a 4+ invulnerable save, you don't really want to be in the situation where he's got a bunch of just melee or enemy infantry, light infantry and stuff surrounding him and attacking him, because he's going to go down. Even with 5 wounds and toughness 4, he's going to be dead. So once you get to that point in the game, he's probably gone. There's a good chance that he's gone, but he can bite back a little bit with those 5 attacks. So he has a 6+ an 8 save, which is awful, but the 4+ invulnerable is what you're going to be rolling every time. I don't think none of the assassins have an actual armor save that is, we'll say, going to be used instead of the lightning reflexes on these guys. So now let's talk about his weapons. So he's got the Exodus rifle, which is heavy 1, strength 5, AP -3, D3 damage, and invulnerable saves can't be taken against attacks made by this weapon. And the weapon wounds enemy infantry units on a 2+. So, I mean, it's It's strength 5, which is good. When you're targeting stuff like like you're always wounding on a 2+ if it's enemy infantry, but the strength 5 can help you if you get stuck, and like I said, if you either bad deployment or your opponent counter deploys really well and you get stuck in a situation where you can't really you can't find those targets that you want, then that strength 5 will allow you to hit something and maybe kill something that's non-infantry. It's still kind of wasted. I mean, they're situational. All the assassins are kind of a situational take. I think that's why the stratagem, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, is really, really key, because it allows you to kind of adapt in that situation and kind of take the initiative, as opposed to being stuck with a character that's going to do nothing all game. Talking about his Exodus rifle, so the AP -3 and the D3 damage is pretty good. That's going to be really strong, and the no invulns is going to be big because it's AP -3. So with AP -3, you're looking at you know, power armor, etc. It's becoming really just paper. And when you're punching through that and the opponent doesn't get an invulnerable save, it's good. You're gonna reliably be able to do that D3 damage, and just pray you don't roll that 1 or a 2. Save your command rerolls for the damage roll on these guys if you can, if you don't roll a 1 to hit. So he's also equipped with the Exodus pistol. I should also mention that it is a pistol weapon. Strength 4, AP -3. It also does D3 damage. So it's essentially a Strength 4 shorter range variant of his rifle. It shares the similar rules. No invulnerable saves can be taken against it. It always wounds infantry on a 2+. It's kind of, it's one of those things where it's a pistol, so I mean, he can use it in combat, so don't forget about it. I know pistols always get forgotten in combat, so if you're one of those people that always remembers, good for you. I am not one of those people. I always forget about my bolt pistols, etc., and you shouldn't, because I mean, that 1 wound that you inflict with a bolt pistol from a group of blood claws or something in combat can be important at the end of the game. So. But yeah, the Exodus pistol, I mean, it's good. It doesn't allow invulnerable saves. It's the same thing essentially as the rifle, just a lot closer range. I mean, 12-inch range on it is okay. You're gonna be firing the rifle 99% of the time. So the blind grenades are kind of an interesting an addition to them. 12-inch range grenade. So don't forget to throw them if you have them. It's D6 shots. But there's no statistics on it. What it banks on is it hitting the opponent, and if you score a hit with it, which ballistic skill 2+, come on, D6 shots. If you don't get a hit, then I don't know what happened, but you're very unlucky. Sorry, but you are. What it does is it's actually going to cause the enemy unit that you hit it with to have a -1 to hit modifier, which is pretty cool. I mean, you can use that to really kind of complement other units that you have in your army and assist with that. It's something that I would definitely look towards, and it's all hit rolls. It's combat and shooting, so I mean, it's pretty cool. So now we're getting into the special rules for the unit. So I mean, the big one is Deadshot. It allows them to target enemy characters without them being the closest model. So wouldn't be a very efficient sniper if he couldn't just pick out characters and he was constantly being denied by other units. So it allows him to pick out enemy characters as if they were able to be targeted no matter what. So that's cool, and that's going to be your big kind of key with this guy. It also gives him the ability on an unmodified hit roll of 6. It increases the damage on the weapon from D3 to D6. That includes the pistol. So again, if you're remembering your pistol in combat, remember to use that. You roll that 6 and you're going to be really, really happy, because D6 damage is higher chance of just dropping a character in one shot. And it's just, it's fun. I mean, he's an assassin, he's a sniper, he's supposed to be targeting those characters, and you want to see that headshot, so to speak, and seeing the enemy farseer or something, seeing their head explode is kind of cool. He also has the headshot special rule, which is basically if you wound a model, an enemy model, and it doesn't die, you roll a dice on a 3+, it does a mortal wound to them. After that, if you successfully do a mortal wound and they still haven't died, you roll on a 4+, and it keeps increasing. I think the cap is 6. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think the cap is 6 because I think it does. In the wording, it says that it goes up by 1. So that means on a 7+, once you get past the 6, which you can't roll, it's going to be an auto-failed roll. So I don't think it just keeps going with the 6s unless they've FAQ'd that. Please correct me in the caption below because I can't find anything like that. So in the comments, thanks. So he also has the spy mask. Enemy models do not gain a bonus to their saving throws for being in cover against models attacked with ranged weapons. Getting attacked by the ranged weapon on this model allows no cover, so that's kind of cool. You never have to worry. You never have to worry about them getting a better armor save. So I mean, with the AP -3, that almost makes them like an AP -4 against the hiding characters. So that's kind of cool. So the stealth suit also gives him a -1 to hit. And -2 to hit if he's in cover. So at the beginning I talked about when you're deploying this guy, you want him to be on a high vantage point in ruins or something, on top of a building, on top of a rock crop or something. If he's wholly within the terrain feature, he's going to be -1 to hit. In addition, he's -2 to hit because he's in cover. So -2 to hit on a T4 5 wound model who's a character and can't be targeted unless they manage to make him the closest model. That's pretty good. So again, that is going to help with his durability a lot. So now we're going to get into some stratagems. There's no real synergizing characters. Normally we like to talk about some synergy with some other characters, but in this case it's not really important, and he's kind of a standalone model as he is. He's going to maybe help some stuff and benefit some stuff with the blind grenades, but what you're really looking to do is kind of in the game of Hero Hammer, as we call it now, with Warhammer 40k and the auras and everything, you're really looking to just eliminate those auras and really disrupt your enemy's battle plan by taking out characters with this guy. So let's go on to the stratagems. So when we're talking about stratagems with this model, it's important to talk about operative requisition sanction. So operative requisition sanction allows you to spend a command point pre-battle, and what it's going to do is they've increased it with the FAQ. They might decrease it again, but it is more expensive to use now, but it's still, I think, worth it because what you're doing is you're spending the command points to allow yourself, you still have to pay the points, it's still 85 points, so if you leave 85 points in your army that you haven't spent, you can kind of plug and play whatever assassin you want depending on what you're facing. It's really good for like a competitive tournament kind of scene because you might not, depending on your opponent, you might not want specific types. I mean, if the opponent only has 2 characters and they're really tough, hard hitting, or if your opponent's, I'm looking at you, Owen, but if your opponent for some random reason isn't running heralds or something and has great unclean ones, you're not really going to be punking great unclean ones that well with a Vindicare, so you might want to go with something that can disrupt like psychic or something. It's kind of situational. Again, I say the Nurgle thing just because demonic resilience and the damage isn't necessarily going to go through with this guy as much, so it might be more worthwhile to take a different assassin like the Colexus or something like that. So, but what it does is it does allow you to add that unit to your army. Doesn't have to be in a detachment. You just have to pay the reinforcement points for match play, which is pretty reasonable. Again, command points for this did go up from the index, so please keep that in mind. But yeah, it's kind of a useful little trick. So then the other stratagem with this guy is priority threat neutralized. Essentially, you spend a command point after a assassin unit in your army has killed a enemy model, or enemy character specifically. It has to deal the death blow, so to speak. And you gain 2 command points, or 3 if it's the enemy warlord. You can only use the stratagem once per character, per enemy character. So you can't like multiply it or double it up. I don't know I think that's pretty self-explanatory as it is, but it was included in the stratagem text. So basically, it can make up its command points that you spent just to get that assassin into your army just by killing one character. So if it does its job, you're going to get that. Its job gets a lot easier when we start talking about the Vindicare specific stratagems. So now when we're talking about that, one of my favorites, or the one favorite I would say, is the double kill. You use in your shooting phase after the Vindicare Assassin has shot, and that model can shoot an additional time this phase. So allowing him to shoot a second shot, which, I mean, on a 2+ to hit, there's a high chance of you hitting. It just multiplies your chance of rolling that 6 on the damage, or 6 to wound, and then getting the d6 damage. It increases the chance of it eliminating that key target character. It's one command point, and I think it's well spent, especially if you're spending that command point on the enemy warlord, and then you spend another command point to trip the priority threat neutralized and get the 3 command points from him. So yeah, you can get your command points back pretty quick, and so sometimes it's worth just spending the extra one there. And the final stratagem for these guys is the turbo penetrator round. So essentially, if you're targeting something with the pistol or the rifle, and it's a monster or vehicle, you don't have to roll to wound. Instead of rolling to wound, it just automatically inflicts D3 mortal wounds, which is pretty good. It's important to mention that it does not stack with the headshot special roll, so you can't start rolling for additional mortal wounds because the model didn't die and keep rolling. Yeah, that's kind of negated. It's just kind of a way of inflicting D3 mortal wounds to an enemy vehicle or monster. And again, if you deploy and the opponent does a good job of kind of hiding all of its characters and you don't have a good line of sight to something with him, it gives you that ability to do something to your opponent without feeling like you've wasted the points on the guy. D3 mortal wounds is, it's a smite. It's a normal smite, so it's just kind of a one command point way of reaching out and hurting an enemy monster vehicle. So it gives them a little bit of an advantage, but again, cool unit. Very cool, very thematic, great inclusion in an army that needs something that can reach out and disrupt the enemy's characters. Is it the best of the assassins? I think that's really debatable. I think again, all the assassins are sort of situational. Each of them has their own kind of key role, and his role is sniping out enemy characters and getting rid of those auras. So positioning is key with these guys. Big takeaways: positioning, making sure you deploy them in the right spot. Other than that, pick out those enemy characters, try to get rid of their auras, and try not to move. If you can't avoid it, then he's got that 7-inch move, but you're just going to lose the faultless aim special roll. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.
Sponsored by
Thanks for watching Anvil of War Gaming. If you guys want to support the channel and keep watching us grow, then click the subscribe button located here. Also, check out some more of our videos. Seeing their head explode is kind of cool. In your mind. Because it doesn't actually happen. The model's head doesn't actually explode. Although that'd be cool.